Hi, name is Charlie. I'm from Sun City, which is a suburb of Phoenix, Arizona. I'm not really a video guy. I take more stills, nature photography. And this is my first try at YouTube, so bear with me a little. Year and a half ago, the wife and the daughter came to me and said, we'd like to take a cruise ship up in Alaska. And then said, would you like to drive? Well, they knew that a bucket list thing of mine was always to drive up to Alaska. So here I am driving up to Alaska. The basic trip is I leave Arizona, go up through Utah, Idaho, Montana, get into Calgary, Edmonton, and on up to Yellowknife, then across to Dawson City. I'm going to do the Dempster Highway, which is like 450 miles of dirt, 2 ferry crossings. But you do get to go to the Arctic Ocean. It's the most northern road in Canada. Of course, I have to jump into the Arctic Ocean. There will have to be pictures of that. I go back down the Dempster, back over to Dawson City. The road then is over called the Top of the World, goes into Fairbanks. From there I pick up the Dalton. The Dalton Highway is the 400 and some odd miles of dirt. It follows the Alaskan pipeline up to Prudhoe Bay. You can't get to the ocean up there unless you pay real dollars to take a tour, because you have to go through the oil fields and that's all restricted. I have to return to Fairbanks and I have to be there by the 22nd of August. That's to pick up the wife and the daughter from the airport. We will then tool around in Alaska for, a week, 10 days. I then take them to Anchorage, where they get on their cruise ship. I go off to Homer. It's called the Alaskan Maritime Highway, which is basically, ferries. I'll leave Alex parked in Homer, take the ferry, and it's a trip out to the end of the Aleutians and back, making stops at the various islands along the way. I thought, gee, why not? That sounds like fun. So I get back to Alaska, or Homer, the 25th of September. From there, I will then start heading home to Phoenix. We'll be making various stops along the way. So that pretty much takes us for what the trip is going to be like. I started out on the 21st of July. Heading to camp the first night just outside of Kanab. It was raining, so I kept on driving and did what's fondly referred to as dispersed camping on BLM land. From there, there was a conscious decision on my part not to do any tour-eye things in the States, because I knew that I would be, I could always go back there. So I just took the interstate, stopped in Idaho Falls at a Love's, went on to Missoula, stopped there at a Love's for the night, and then went into Canada at the Rossville border crossing. I'm looking at notes to make sure I say all this right. The goal was Lake End, E-N-I-D. So I'm driving through Cranebrook, and all of a sudden I lose my navigation, and because I was looking for the turn in Cranebrook, A while later, I realized I was not on the right road. I dig out my National Geographic Road Atlas, get myself straightened out, get up to Invergorok, and stop at the visitor center there. Come to find out, Starlink had a outage, and I have Starlink installed on the van, and that's what had happened. So it brought home the idea, the mosquitoes are bad, brought home the idea that I really need to pay attention before I leave anytime while I have internet, and to have real maps with me as well. I did make it to Lake End, obviously. I got some really neat pictures. It was a very scenic spot. And enjoyed it. So then Friday, I started heading to Calgary. I go up to Radium Springs and take Highway 93, or the Kootenai Highway. It was really a neat drive. Stopped at a overlook to take some pictures. Made it into Calgary. One of the video camera photography sites that I like to frequent, they have videos there from the guys, and they started out at the camera store. And so I had to stop at the camera store in Calgary. I did buy a camera. The store was really cool. It was not, quote, all that big, but it was just crammed with everything and had most anything you could ask for. While in Calgary, I then went to the Military Museum. The cool thing about it was the dioramas that they had. That were really cool. The other thing it really pointed out was, the U.S.-centric view that we have of not only the First and Second World War, but just in general. The best example of that probably is, you all remember the movie The Great Escape? Well, that was actually led by Canadians out of one of the prisoner of war camps. Apparently there was the WAC equivalent, Canadian equivalent, were heavily involved in breaking the Enigma machine code and also doing the Turing machine. What surprised me was the number, and I'll say a dozen simply because, UN peacekeeping missions the Canadians have been on. They have really done a lot of those. One of the pictures I hope to be able to put in here is a aviation poster, and it reads, "Aviation in itself is not inherently dangerous, but to an even greater degree than the sea, it is terribly unforgiving of any carelessness, incapacity, or neglect." And the poster is of a plane flying into a tree. So, you know, I thought that was pretty good. I then went south to Nathan. The camera person at the camera store told me about it. And this was the Bomber Command Museum. For Canada. They had a Lancaster bomber in there. It can taxi, it runs, but it's not flight certified. The Lancaster bomber was used by the British and the Canadians, of course. It was manufactured in several places in England, but like 800 and something were actually manufactured in Canada. One, again, that US-centric thing. The bouncing bombs blew up the dams on the Ruhr Valley that provided electric. Those were actually flown by Canadians. And I think it was the Canadians that flew them. The Lancaster apparently had the heaviest bomb load capacity during the Second World War at European theater and the largest bomb bay. And the Lancaster then dropped the original bunker buster bombs. These were just some highlights of both museums. Of course, there was all the various equipment, weapons, pictures, you know, all that sort of museum kind of stuff that I'm just going to gloss over and just tried to hit some of the highlights. Once I left Nathan, darn mosquitoes. It was on to Edmonton, and I took Highway 40 or the Kanaskis Highway. That was a really pretty drive. I was able to stop at a roadside place along the way for lunch. There's the mountain again, and we are apparently on the valley floor. Although at some point, I am pretty sure we wind up climbing a pass. I saw a sign hour and a half back, that there's a pass up ahead that's only open during the summer. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. Just have to see what shows up. There are hiking trails all along here. And you can see the cars parked. Way too much work for me. Oh, there's the mountains again in the distance with the valley. I sure hope this shows up okay on video. We'll just have to see. Just a quick shot here where you can see how low the clouds are, and they've really settled in on the mountain. This has been a really cool drive. Had the picnic table, river view. It was really pretty cool. So made it to Edmonton, stayed at the old truck stop again, and then was on to High Level. The rest stop, I took a picture of a truck because of the configuration that they use up here, where they have like a 20-30 foot trailer and then a 3-wheel thing that 2 wheels are for the back of the trailer, and then there's actually a 5th wheel on it for another 25, 30-foot trailer. I've also seen one cab pulling two 53-foot trailers. Pretty amazing. Along the way, I hope to be able to insert a picture of a wooden train bridge. Or train trestle, I guess. So the drive from Calgary, Nayton, Edmonton, high level, you're all going through farm country. A lot of hay fields, I could identify those. I'm sure there was other crops, but there were these massive fields of yellow. And of course I asked Google, and it could be either mustard seed or canola. And I think that most of them were actually canola. Now, the canola originally started out in the Second World War as a substitute oil, but it really tasted terrible, I mean, as a crop. It tasted terrible, and then I'll say it was genetically engineered to what we now call canola oil. And for the trivia question, what does canola actually stand for? Or what is it shorthand for? It's Canadian Oil Low Acid. Just thought you'd like to know that. So Monday I went on to Yellowknife. Gas stations, diesel, whatever, are few and far between. So I stopped at Enterprise for fuel. That was the last time I saw fuel till Yellowknife. Before entering the Northwest Territories, I saw a mama black bear with 3 cubs traipsing across the highway. They were not lollygagging, and before I could even think to get a camera, they were across the highway. Stopped at the entrance to the Northwest Territories. Big sign, all that good stuff. Took pictures. So here I am on the road leaving from lunch. And you can see we've got just no big deal, just a little hill to climb up here. turn off. Along the way, this was also called the waterfall route. Saw two waterfalls, Alexandria and Louise Falls. Trying this again with a little wider angle so that can pick up more of the skyline. This is Louise Falls. I have pictures. The Alexandria was all like placement. I got the best pictures there. Passed two herds of buffalo. Got pictures of one. See the bison on the side of the road? We have bison, little ones and big ones. Saw maybe half a dozen buffalo by themselves along the side of the road. And then drove through the remnants tail end of a forest fire. So we've got smoky conditions. You can see some residual fire there on the left, apparently. And you can see where it's been burned coming through here. Yeah, but it can't be too bad because they're still working construction, apparently. I find that humorous. That excitement. See just some of the residuals. When I was going through, it was more brush on fire than trees and things. Mosquitoes are bad. Sorry for the waving hands. When I was there, it wasn't spooky or any of that sort of stuff because there weren't any big fires raging, you know, but there was definite smoke, definite flames, but it was all kind of low-level stuff. So that takes us up to, oh, I know. Somewhere above high level, the road turned into what really reminded me of Mississippi in Interstate 55, where you're going down the road and there's these high, tall tree banks on either side of the road that you can't see through. And so all you can do is just stare down the road. Terribly boring, but you know, it is what it is. I feel bad up here in Yellowknife that I'm not able to do any tour kind of things. The trip was shortened. I wound up leaving 4 days. You know, I can talk about not laying out the trip correctly, you know, that sort of thing. But my trip was shortened by 4 days unexpectedly. And I think that had a lot to do with it because I really have to try and make Dawson City in the next 4 days. So that's it for today. I hope to be able to get more scenery, especially once I start doing the Dempster Highway, because that goes through a couple mountain ranges and should be pretty nifty looking. Thanks.